Check 1 2. This is Khan from Khan and Amir.
Yo, what's up? This is Amir from Khan and Amir.
And we're cooling out with D2S in the place to be.
All right, and you guys are like the fathers of digging. You guys have had the crates, the records, the samples. You guys have exposed so many samples to so many people. What defines a sample to you guys?
I guess it's just your ear. I mean, if you think you could convert it and make it into, like Rakim said, convert it into a hip-hop form, or whether it's house, dance. I mean, you know, sampling is an art form in and of itself, and I think it really just depends on your style. I mean, you can make anything, you know. I mean, Timbaland's first project was just a bunch of little noises, you know. So, I mean, it really depends on how your brain is wired. Right,
definitely. So when you guys, did you want to speak on that too, or?
No, I mean I agree with him.
Okay. So, yeah, if you guys want to just chime in, just let me know. So, okay. Or if, you know, I'll give it to both of you guys. So, so when you know, there's definitely hip hop, but when you talk about the sample of hip hop, it opens this vast room of just so many different areas. What type of music do you guys like to prefer to listen to? Just in the privacy of your own home, pretty much.
Well, for me, you know, I love jazz. Or like I'm just sitting chilling by myself, is jazz or some good music like this in the background. You know what I mean? Right. Just something like real chill. You know, I'm not trying to like, you know, wild out to some craziness. You know what I'm saying? Like listening to DMX at home. You know, Get At Me Dog or some shit like that. I'm just trying to bring it down. You know, so that's really me.
What about you?
I mean, it depends on my mood.
Yeah.
Sometimes I listen to roots reggae. Sometimes I'm listening to disco. Sometimes I'm trapped in my hip hop time machine, and I'm just listening to 80s and early 90s stuff. I mean, it's just really, I mean, classic soft rock from the 70s. You know, I listen to everything. So, just depends on the mood.
Definitely.
You know.
So, you know, with record digging, it's like a whole culture that a lot of people know about and a lot of people may not know about, you know. I know a lot of OGs come up to you and are surprised at some of the records that you have. How did you guys get started with digging, and how many pieces do you have or do you guys share?
Well, I got started real early because my father was a drummer, and he had records, and he had like a little reel-to-reel turntable set up. Okay. And so I was probably about 4 or 5 years old, and then my parents split. My mother took me to the record shops about 77, 78, 79. First records I bought were Chic, Kiss, and a Superman disco 12-inch. And I mean, from that point, anybody who had records, I was always a little kid with older people. So the records was the first thing I would go to. Like if they had records in the house, I'm going through the records. So that's how it kind of started, you know.
Well, my father and my mother, you know, they always have records in the house, and my brothers and sisters and whatnot. So I kind of grew up around a lot of that stuff. So like around 78, 79 myself, you know, my mom bought me a turntable and a record, you know, for my birthday at that time. And I used to try to sneak in my brother's room, try to take his records, and you know, he was like, nah, don't do that. So I had to go out and get my own. I just like remember what he had, like covers, and just go out and buy the shit. You know what I mean? And then I just kind of, you know, developed, I guess, my own sense of taste and, you know, love for music from there. That's really it. Definitely. You know?
So, I mean, I know you guys have gone through great lengths to get certain records and, you know, digging trips. What are some trips that you guys have taken specifically to dig for records in terms of places and just, you know, places like cities and countries and actual places that you guys have gone?
Well, I mean, I got a chance in 2008 to go to Korea, not for digging, just on some like whatever for Wax Poetics. Okay. And while we were out there, man, we would go to like the illest, craziest places to find records. I mean, you would like in Korea, because it's like 15 million people, you would go in the subway, and in the subway is like a huge mall, and they would have like record stores with vinyl just in the subway. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was crazy. And then you would go to like bars where like one side of the wall would be all vinyl, and the other side would be like the most fancy schmancy bar. And I'm like, this is crazy. Right. And you can like get a drink, listen to music, buy records, and it was just like bananas. It was something that I didn't go there on purpose to do, but I just saw it and fell into it. You know what I mean? So
That's what's up. That's what's up. You want to speak on it too?
It's been a minute since I've had any real digging trips. I mean, obviously in my spare time, whenever I travel, I try to hit up spots, but it's definitely to the point where like I just don't have the patience or the time to, I guess, go in like that. So, you know, I know a lot of guys that make a living off of selling records, dealers and / collectors. So it's kind of got to the point where, you know, I could just hit them up and we're friends, you know, outside of the whole thing. So they know my taste or what they think I might like or whatever, you know, and that's pretty much, I mean, that's the latest, really. I'm not gonna front and be like, you know, I'm out there going to like, you know, the forests, and you know, yeah. I mean, it's not. I just don't. That's not. You know, I'm not making a living off it like that. So, you know, I don't sell records for a living. I collect them.
Right.
So
I also feel like, you know, not that we're both old men, but we're both older. Yeah. So I just feel like at this point in time we've paid our dues or whatever however you want to call it. So I feel like, you know, if I want to go to a record store, or if I just like him, you know, he has some friends that will hit him off of records that they know he likes. It's like I'd rather do that than what I used to do when I was like 20 and 18 and whatnot, being in some like smelly ass basement or, you know, whatever, just, you know, coming home like, oh, yo, like, but I got that dope record. It's like going through 1,000 records to get maybe one record. It's nah, I'm not hearing that no more.
Yeah, because I think that, you know, because I used to do the same thing, and, you know, I was a big record junkie. I know the digital age has changed it a lot, but a lot of people that have started DJing in the last 5 years, they just don't know the lengths that, you know, I went through, and you guys have probably went through that 10 times as much. You know what I'm saying? Just, you know, records with mold on them, and, you know, I had a friend that got really sick from, you know, from mold on a record. You know,
bought records that had like vials of crack in them, pictures of like the dudes, whoever it was, that naked girlfriend. You know, like, oh shit, she was kind of fly. You know, like from the '70s and whatnot. I'm like, damn, and the dudes, the shit that people put in their records is like, they put their bills. Like, I'm like, I would never think of doing nothing like that, but whatever, you know.
That's right. The craziest thing I found on a record, I found a letter from Rappin' Forte in prison in a record one time. I swear to God. It was to Franzen at KML. Yeah. Wow. It was a letter.
Wow.
Yeah. It was a
Club.
Yeah, so, but crack is something.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, I'm sure dude's still like, yo, where's my crack, man? I gotta find that shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, good luck.
That's what's up, though. I know when I used to listen to you guys' mixtape, you guys would have samples from an album that just came out. You know what I'm saying? Like, the Della album would come out, you guys would have the samples back to back. Is that something? Did you guys have the sample, or did you hear the album and they're like, I gotta find that sample? You know,
it's kind of both, because I used to work at Fat Beats back in the day. So a lot of the records, like the Missing Link record, which became, you know, another big hit with Dr. Dre, the sample. Like when they brought the demo in, and I was like, yo, I have that record. So we already working on the next volume. I was like, that right there, I knew that was gonna be a big song. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, we gotta put that on there. So like a lot of times I had that advantage to hear shit a lot of times before everybody else. And then other times I would hear it and then I'm like, yo, I gotta go find that sample. Right. So it was a little of both, you know what I mean?
Definitely. In terms of your relationship with other producers that may be, you know, old school producers, did you guys, I know there's a fine line between like presenting the sample and then, you know, sort of telling the producer where they got the sample from. Right. Was there ever any issues with any past, like any older producers or beat makers or anything like that?
Never. I mean, yeah, I'll give you another story, man. I'm in A1 in 1997, and you know, it's a famous record store, and so like the turntables are in the front, so like over behind you. Pete Rock is sitting there listening to music. Now I used to carry the old on-track cassettes on me just to hand them out to people. And I was mad nervous. I was like, yo, you gotta give it to him. You gotta give it to him. So as I'm walking out, I was about to front knot, and then I was like, yo, here you go. He paged me. I didn't even have a cell. I had a pager back then. He paged me and was like, yo, son, this shit is fucking ill. We gotta hang out, son. You know, like them, like Primo, when I got a drop from Primo, when they did a in-store at Fat Beats, he was like, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we've got nothing but love from them, because the thing is that they know that we have the same love as they do for music.
Right,
So it's like, you know, it's a mutual respect thing. Nobody's ever came at us like, yo, what the fuck are you doing? You can't do that shit. You know, it's like, yo, like, actually some of them be like, yo, do you know this? Like, I'm about to do this. You know what I'm saying? So it's all good.
Definitely,
you know?
Definitely. So I know you had some health problems. Do you want to maybe give a timeline and maybe give an update on your status now, and just the support that people showed you when you were going through your problems?
Well, it's almost been a year. Coming up in late July is when I got pretty much deathly ill last year. We were out west, and it was about 2 weeks after I came home that it all happened, and it kind of just happened in one day. You know, I basically, you know, I have a pretty rare blood disease. 2 of them, really. It's like 1 out of like 300, 400,000 people get. And I'm prone to blood clots, basically, and, you know, some other side effects. But basically, it was a situation where I wasn't respecting my illness, and due to the fact that I just didn't have really any symptoms. And this is something new. This was something that I didn't know I had. You know, it wasn't something I was born with or anything like that. So it was a private thing at first, you know. And then when the shit really hit the fan, you know, I couldn't work. I couldn't do anything. I mean, I lost 30 pounds in 2 weeks, which is pretty drastic. And, you know, I was on 200 milligrams of morphine a day, and just, it was crazy. It was a crazy experience. But I mean, worldwide, I was overwhelmed by the amount of support and love that was shown. And it was a very, not that I feel that I was never humble in that sense to begin with, but it was very humbling, and it was very, you know, it was a very trying time, man, you know. So it still means the world to me, you know, of what people did, because I know personally, I know other people that have gotten sick, and, you know, nobody seems to give a shit except for like your real close peoples. But you know, I mean, I was in the hospital for over a month, and I mean, I straight up, you know, they had a little benefit for me where I live in Boston, and you know, then Amir and Spinner got together and did something pretty major in New York, and you know, every DJ came out, and you know, Scratch. I mean, to have DJ Scratch rock on my behalf, right. You know, I cried. You know what I mean? It meant a lot. So I'm very lucky to be here, you know, straight up. I mean, so I just feel, you know, it was tough for me when, you know, I had to kind of share it. I didn't have to share it with the world, but it just got to a point where the word kind of got around, like I was sick, you know, and other people we've lost already due to health, you know. I'm friends with people that are good friends of Dilla's, and, you know, they were reaching out like crazy. I mean, Spinner was calling me like every day, you know, like, yo, you know. So mentally and spiritually, that really helped me just fight, you know, because the place that I was at when that was going down, I never thought I'd be back here again on my feet, you know, like this, in this way, in this condition. Because I mean, I couldn't eat, I couldn't walk, I was done, you know, and the outcome was very uncertain. So it's a blessing. I don't take any of this for granted, you know. So that's pretty much it.
Cool. That was great to have you back.
Thank you. Great to be here.
So you guys, want to talk about your guys' partnership and how you guys met and how connected you guys are and what you do.
Well, back in '95, I had moved. I'm from Boston originally as well too. Most people think I'm from New York, but I live in New York. And when I moved to New York in '95, I started working for some independent labels back then. I'm sure you remember Street Smarts, True Criminal Records. I was helping passing that shit out at the time. Yeah, so
I was one of Pharrell's illest verses.
Exactly, you know. And so we have a mutual friend that owned a record store in Boston. So I came by to give him a promo of the record, and we just was kicking it, you know, my man Bruno and I. And then Khan overheard, and we just kind of like kicked it and whatnot. And I was with a friend of mine, and I offered him a ride home. And I had a cassette tape of some breaks, and you know, when you turn on the car, you know, it automatically comes on, and he's like, "Yo, like you," and we're just looking at each other like, "Oh shit!" And then once we got to know each other, that we know the same people, but we just never ran into each other, and we didn't live that far from each other originally as well. When I used to live in Boston, so it was like a mutual respect thing, and you know, we just started like. I would go record shopping, he would go record shopping, we would just play records for each other, and then we would go record shopping together, and then one day we were just like, you know what, why don't we try putting this love, what we do, on a cassette and see what happens, you know. It was tough in the beginning, man. People think that, oh, you know, you guys have been doing it since day one, but yeah, it was hard, man. I dubbed all of those cassettes myself on a double cassette deck, and I'm talking about hundreds of them. I'm not talking about like maybe 10 here, you know, that shit took a long time. I used to write my fucking paging number on this shit, you know what I'm saying? And it's weird, like, you know, when we was at Hype's house and he had one of the cassettes with my paging number on, I was like, wow, I got that far like that, you know what I'm saying? In the beginning, I almost wanted to give up in the beginning because nobody was showing us love in the beginning. But then over time, we just kept being persistent about it. And, you know, he's been DJing since, what, 85 or whatever, and then, like, also DJing in the club since the early 90s or whatever. I never was a DJ. I was just a straight record collector, you know what I'm saying? And that's how we kind of, like, morphed together, you know what I'm saying? Because we just had that love for music, and yeah, I mean, I don't know if you want to chime in with anything else.
That's pretty much it, really. I mean, you know, I think what he was saying as far as it being kind of tough, I mean, we didn't set out to make any kind of thing happen. This is just all kind of by, the on-track thing was really kind of just a fluke, if you will, in a sense, because, you know, we were doing it regardless. And it just kind of happened to spill out into something that became, I guess, somewhat successful. And by, like, if you listen to the progression of the series, you know, the first two, there's no fluidity, there's no flow in the sense of a mix where, excuse me, the tempo is a factor. It's more about, here's a block of Pete Rock's samples, and here's a block of Beat Nuts, and et cetera, you know. But as the popularity grew, you know, being that we would put our records together, but I would pretty much try to program it and mix it. So I took it a little more serious, and if you listen maybe from 3 up to 6, you'll hear that the style of the theme of the tape became more about a flow, you know, and beat and tempo and stuff like that. So that's when things, you know, I think I started to see it for what it was, you know, unfolding. And then, you know, like he said, he wasn't DJing, but I think some of the success of this forced him to start playing out in a club setting of what he had sitting in his house, you know. So I guess when you have a lot of good records, you have a good ear, it's kind of like, yeah, I guess now I gotta try to play these records. So
you gotta shit and get off the pot, you know what I'm saying? Like, you gotta just do it. And you know, and I was hesitant at first, but then after a while I was like, you know what, let's just do this. You know, it's like, this is an opportunity that I don't want to waste. I don't want to have any regrets and say, you know, I should have, could have, would have. Yeah. You know what I mean? So that's really it. And then, you know, he's a producer by trade as well. He's been producing hip hop records and stuff like that, and other things. So, you know, I know you got a bunch of projects you're working on, and then we have what we're gonna do next. Besides, you know, we have the Off Track Volume 3, because I know you asked us about stuff like that before. Just came out on BBE. We have 2 more records to do with BBE in terms of that. We may or may not do another On Track. I'm not sure, because it's a lot of work, especially like he said, as the tapes or the projects, the CDs have progressed. It becomes more complicated to really, you know, separate yourself and really make a cohesive thing. So we're probably, you know, we reached out to Kyoto Jazz Massive, and we're talking about doing an album CD project with them. I don't know how it's going to turn out, but they're definitely excited. They've been fans of us for a long time, and we, you know, vice versa. So that's something that we're going to do probably together, and just see where the future leads, man. We've been traveling a lot. You know, we traveled a lot this year. You know, we were in Europe for like almost a month at the beginning of this year, and you know, I was on the road. I was in Austin, Texas for South by Southwest. We were in Miami together. Last week we were in Atlanta. This week we're in Cali. And next month we're gonna be in Baltimore. You know, in Philly. You know, so I feel really blessed to do what I love because so many people are not in that position to do that. So I, you know, like him, although I never had, God willing, I've never had any, you know, near-death experiences, but I don't take this for granted either. You know, because you know the next day it could be all taken away, and so I really try to enjoy it as much as possible. You know, while I'm here. Not to get on some sad, sappy shit, but you know.
No, it's all good, man. It's understandable, man. I mean, it's true. So, you guys want to promote your newest projects that you guys have coming out? I know you just did, but just.
Well, I'm working on some original material, some dance stuff, really. What I've been kind of doing for a minute, really, especially with these mixes and these comps and a lot of the re-edits and stuff like that. But I've been doing some original stuff. I got some Latin house stuff coming out that I'm doing with me and my homie. Got a little project coming out. And I got some disco stuff happening. I'm about to do this other little project with these guys out of Boston that are blowing up in the techno, you know, the kind of soulful, techie stuff. These guys named Soul Clap. You know, shouts to my man Amphibious. I've been doing a ton of like multi-track remix stuff, stuff that I can't really put out, but you know, people. I've been getting a lot of really good feedback on stuff. You know, a lot of the you know, remixes here and there, and that's really it, man. We're about to go to Australia in August. My man Recluse out in New Zealand. Another cat who was from Boston, then moved to Detroit, then moved to New Zealand, and you know, it's such a small world because this dude put out a really dope edit where he chopped up his Ronnie Laws, and it came out on this British label, but it went under the name of Chow Daddy, and Chow Daddy was a PSA in Boston to get kids to eat in the cafeteria. So like, Chow Daddy. So I'm like, yo, dude, I'm from Boston. I know everybody there. How's this? What's this thing? Chow Daddy. Who's this guy? So by accident we met, and he was like, yeah, I'm that dude, but he's in New Zealand. So I was just like, then it all just came together, and you know, Cats. It's been quite a good experience, you know. There's a lot of people that share the same love and passion, and I think, you know, that's really what it's about. It's the music, you know. We're just messengers, and I'm here to just try to continue and push and spread the word, you know, spread the love. So.
Word, man.
Yeah, that's what's up. I mean, the only other thing I can say for like myself individually, he's been getting on me about it too, but I'm probably gonna do this Latin mix CD because you know I really love Latin music a lot, so I kind of want to really, you know, just get that out of the way. So that's something I want to do, you know, and just do. I also have a party in New York called I Love Vinyl with a bunch of other cats, and you know, it's a pretty successful party, and so doing a lot of that, doing a lot of, you know, work. I work a lot, or DJ a lot with Wajid and Geology. We have kind of like a, you know, group together that we do stuff. So, you know, I'm trying to stay busy as well, you know, that's just cool. Keep doing what I'm doing.
It's kind of chocolate right there.
Yeah.
Chocolate.
Word. So if people want to, people want to stay up to date with what you guys are doing, you know, do you guys want to shout out to Twitter, Facebook, anything like that?
Well, I'm on Twitter. I mean, you know, Twitter's whatever, man. I mean, I don't really take Twitter too serious, but I'm on there as Khan1200, and you could catch me on the blog at playingforkeeps.blogspot.com, and there's no G on playing, and it's the number 4, but there's tons of mixes up, there's edits up, there's just all kinds of little doodads, you know. So, you know, that's pretty much it.
And then for me, it's this Twitter is DFJ Amir. And I got my own blog, which I need to update and start really getting, you know, down with. But it's called The Chronicles with a K. .net. And it's just like, you know, like I said, I used to work at Fat Beats. I used to help run the company, so I worked with a lot of people from Big L to whoever. So I got mad stories. I'm like, people call me grandpa because I always got like stories to sit down and tell you about. Like, you'd be like, oh shit, really? Like, yeah. So I want to like kind of get that off. And plus I got mixes and songs and records in the collection I want to share with people too. So you can, you know, get a hold of us that way, or just Khan Amir, you know, Facebook, you know. That's a good way to get a hold of us as well. And thank you, brother. You know, of course. And,
appreciate it, man.
Appreciate it. You know, love the Bay. The Bay always is showing us love, man. So, you know, that's what's up.
Yeah, for sure.